Hi everybody, so today we have with us the lovely Alice Thomas, who swims for Wales and Great Britain. She is European bronze medalist, World Championship finalist, and at the age of 27 became Commonwealth champion in one of the toughest events in the pool, the 200 metres butterfly. We talk with her today about smashing through those perceptions about age in sport, a little bit about her lockdown life and her nutrition, and on to Tokyo, now 2021, and what her thoughts and feelings are around that. Thank you for listening today, guys. We really hope that you enjoy it. Hi Alice, how are you?
Hello. I'm good, thank you.
Good, fantastic. Cheers for joining us today, Alice. So you're based down in Swansea in Wales, and at the minute you guys have got probably some of the toughest restrictions worldwide at the minute with the 5 mile rule. You know, you're not allowed to travel more than 5 miles from your house. So how are you finding it? How are you coping, with that?
Yeah, I mean, it's a little bit frustrating, but we're kind of still doing the same thing I was doing from day one in lockdown. So I think our coaching staff were pretty good with helping us create a really good, solid routine from day one, and that's kind of just continued. So in terms of my training, I'm pretty lucky to be have access to quite a lot of equipment and stuff in my own house. So I've got a pretty comprehensive gym set up in my front room, which I can take outside on really good weather days. And I've got myself a spin bike, which I bought myself as well. So in terms of cardio, I do all my cardio on a spin bike. And then in terms of conditioning, I do quite a lot of gym. My gym work is pretty similar to what I would be doing on a normal training routine anyway, if I'd be in the pool. So I've managed to kind of keep my aerobic fitness and my body conditioning pretty much the same. So in terms of like Wales and their restriction, yes, it's frustrating and it's annoying we're not back in the pool yet, but I've just been doing the same thing from day one because nothing's changed, which is really annoying because I can see it around the world and around the country. Things are changing for everybody else and they're managing to ease stuff. But, I'm just trying to keep a calm head, and things will eventually change for us. We just got to be patient and wait for it, I think.
Yeah. After doing like the same thing since day one, is that okay, or is that like getting upset now, or have you had enough of it, or how are you coping?
I mean, I'm trying to look at it in the positive way. So it's nice actually to do something different. So being on the bike is completely different to what I'd normally be doing. I wouldn't normally have the opportunity to work on something different. So, I'm seeing some benefits in my legs. Like physically, I can see that they're changing shape and I'm feeling a bit stronger. So that in my head, I'm thinking that can only be a good thing. And in normal training season, I wouldn't get that opportunity to do that. So yeah, it is a bit monotonous, but in terms of my normal monotony in training, it's completely different. So it's a different type of monotony. Is that a good thing? I don't know. We've even tried to change things up. So even though we have this routine where I do my cardio bike in the morning and then I do the gym in the afternoon, we've gone through a couple of weeks where we switched that round and done gym in the morning and then done the cardio in the evening. So we can, and because it's not rigid, like when you're in the pool, you have to be at the pool at a certain time because you have lanes booked at a certain time. Whereas now, because everything's in my control, because I'm doing it in my own house, I can choose, I don't fancy doing it at 8 o'clock. I'll do it at 9. I'll push it back a bit. I'll have a bit more of a lie-in this morning, or it's raining a bit. I won't do gym outside just yet. I'll do it in an hour or so. Like, there's a little bit more leeway with things and be a bit more flexible. So I'm enjoying that bit more sense of control. So it's not quite so monotonous in that sense where it's so rigid. There's like a bit more choice over things. So I am enjoying it, and I'm kind of reminding myself that we're not going to be like this forever. So that monotony of normal training will come back, and I will probably look back and think, oh, I wish I was doing that again. I wish I was going back to I was getting up at 7 o'clock instead of 5, so I'm trying to remind myself to enjoy this bit, as annoying as it is and as frustrating as it is. I'm trying to see the silver linings of it, if you like, and I don't know, not get so down the dumps that I'm not doing what I want to do necessarily, if that makes sense.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've said as well, you're fortunate enough to live really close to the sea. So you've actually been donning your wetsuit and going in and doing some water swimming, probably not 200 fly type training, but you've been doing a little bit in the sea, is that right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's kind of difficult to do fly in 4-foot swells. I have tried, but it's a challenge. Yeah, you're taking a lot of seawater doing that. So yeah, I've backed off the fly a little bit, just stuck with the freestyle. But yeah, no, there's saying that there has been some lovely days, and actually Monday this week we had such a lovely day in terms of weather, and I've never seen British Sea or even Welsh Sea so clear. We could see straight to the bottom, and it was probably about 10 foot deep, and we could see straight to the bottom. There was all these reefs, loads of starfish. I barely did any swimming. I was just basically like snorkeling and looking at the bottom of the sea. And but yeah, I've been fortunate that I've got a wetsuit, been in the sea, been doing just 2 or 3K, probably about 3-4 times a week. Not really as a training stimulus, just more as like a mental thing, like, oh, I feel all right, I'm in the water, I'm actually doing swimming, which is more specific to the sport that I'm doing, that I love. Because, you know, it's all great being on a bike, but it's not swimming, is it? I'm not using my arms. So just getting my shoulders going round is a really nice feeling after like 2-3 months of not doing that. But yeah, it's really great. And also it's nice to be social again, because, you know, even with the social distancing rules, we're able to meet up with some of the other guys from our squad in Swansea, keeping a safe distance and all of that. And it's nice to see faces. Like we can do this like kind of Zoom chat like this, but to see people, like real people, it's really good. It makes a difference.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's good.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you've been well, I've seen on other bits you've been entertaining yourself doing a bit of things like clay modelling and things like that. So what else have you been doing to entertain yourself?
Yeah, so I am a bit like creative, and normally like in normal like training routine or whatever, I'm always like, everybody's always so tired. I haven't got time to do things like that. Everybody's always so pushed for like, just got to recover, I've got to do this, I'm focused on this, stressed out and all of that. But because of the way this is now, I've just got time to do things. And yeah, I've just been occupying myself, being a bit more creative. I like to paint. I like to, like you said, you might have seen, I did a little clay model of my dog. Yeah, my dog's been keeping me occupied as well. Been taking him on little walks and things like that. Yeah, it's just little creative projects and stuff been keeping me going, keeping my mind going. But yeah, it's nice to have kind of time where you don't have to be necessarily thinking about the next competition or necessarily thinking about your next session in terms of like, I really need to nail this next session because I've got a competition coming up. So recovery is really, really key. Like, so I'm doing more with my free time, whereas before I might have been prioritizing my free time more for recovery and just literally sitting and doing nothing. So I think, I need to recover. So I'm doing more things around the house also just to like not get bored, because I know I'm in the house all the time anyway. So yeah, it's been quite good. I've been enjoying it a little bit. And also I am an introvert, so I do like just being on my own and doing stuff by myself. So I'm not overly bothered that I can't go out and socialize, because it doesn't bother me too much anyway. Like, that's not to say I wouldn't, but it's just being in lockdown doesn't I don't know how to say it, doesn't really like dampen my personality too much. It kind of plays into my hand a little bit more than perhaps other people who are extroverted. That makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
I wonder if that's swimmers and individuals.
Might be, yeah.
You know, you're used to being in your own thoughts a lot in the pool, and even though you swim in a big team, you're in your own thoughts quite a lot. So I wonder if
kind of used to being in your own little bubble.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the things that we've really enjoyed during lockdown, I know it's finished now, but was that 10 weeks on Thursday evenings of the Clap for Carers outside, and it just, like you say, you're actually seeing some faces for a change rather than just 2D people on Zoom. I mean, you've said before, you've mentioned that both of your parents work for the NHS, so I mean that must have been extra special for you to see and be a part of. Does knowing that they've supported you, you know, through your swimming for so many years, is it really nice to see that support now reciprocated by the public for people like your parents that are working for the NHS?
You know what, it was a really bizarre thing, because I feel like I'm quite a strong person and I'm quite like stony faced, and it takes a lot to bring like emotion out of me, especially in like a public way.
Yeah.
And when it was like maybe the second time, because the first time I was like, oh, what's this all like clapping for carers, blah blah blah, and my parents would be the same way. They'd be like, oh no, like don't need any of that. And we heard like all of the commotion and stuff, and the first week, and we were like, oh, I don't need any of that. The second week I was like, well, I can hear it, and they're like sending off fireworks and stuff, and I was like, what are they sending fireworks off for? It's like this light, you're not going to see it. And I decided I'm going to go down, I'm going to see what's going on outside. So I opened the door, the dog came with me, and we just sat like by the threshold of the door, and he was just barking his head off because he could see all of the people on the street, the pots and pans. There was another dog barking, and it was just so funny because we just sat there, and like he was barking at everyone. People were laughing at him barking. They were like, pots and pans, there's a noise going on. And it suddenly just dawned on me that people are like coming together, doing the same thing, even though we can't physically like come together or do anything. People are like choosing to come out and show their appreciation for people, for NHS.
Yeah.
And then I like came back in, and for some reason I was just crying. I was like, and I don't know why. And I turned to Dan, my boyfriend, and I was like, I don't know why I've got all emotional about this. Like, it's not affecting me. And I didn't really do anything. All I did was stood at the door with the dog barking. And I was like, I don't know why I've suddenly got all emotional. I was like, I think it's just because it feels almost personal, because my parents are working in the NHS. My mum, like, I've been talking to my mum quite a lot. She teaches in intensive care. So she's not quite clinical, but she was teaching nurses. She had to teach nurses up so that they could work on intensive care. So she was playing quite a specific role, and my dad was working at a local walk-in centre in London, so he was quite on the front line-ish, I guess. So I was like, suddenly, okay, well, they've got quite a pivotal role in this, and they're kind of clapping for them. And I was like, suddenly, like, oh, this is like quite close to home. And I think that's why I suddenly got a little bit emotional about it. But yeah, as you say, it kind of, I hadn't thought about it when you said it the way you did, that them having done all they've done for me, it kind of turned it round. Suddenly everybody's clapping for them in an appreciation for all that they do. And perhaps that's how it kind of hit home for me a little bit. But yeah, it was really great to suddenly have everybody thanking them for something, instead of just me being thankful for them.
Definitely. So, yeah. Are they both safe and well? Are they all good? Yeah.
They're all they're doing well. Mum just keeps updating me with things from London, like that I don't necessarily see on the news. So it's good to have that like little insight of stuff that's going on. So yeah, it's good. Yeah. It's just I can't really see it, but yeah.
I do feel like there are some good things that's going to have come out of this situation. Like there's some silver linings, like you were talking about before, and I think just that community, everyone sort of getting together and just showing their appreciation, little things like that. Like we've sort of speaking to our neighbours that we never didn't used to speak to because we were coming out for the clap. Even little things like that, there's something, aren't there? There's something.
Yeah. Well, I've never even seen the neighbours down there, and then I suddenly see like, oh, okay, that's who lives there. Because we've only lived here just over a year now in this house, so it was nice to see like, oh, okay, now I know the faces that live down in those houses. Yeah. So it was good to kind of, as you say, see them and kind of wave at them and be like,
at least give them a wave.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good.
Awesome. Yeah, so sorry, I was just going to say, like, changing tack a little bit. So you just basically had your big standout year in 2018 when you became Commonwealth champion on the 200 fly. Yeah. Fantastic event. Well done. And a brilliant race as well. Like, really, really good race. And it was really, I really enjoyed watching and seeing you break out. But that's relatively late in your career. So, like, was it like third Commonwealth Games now?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So Delhi.
Yeah. Third one.
Glasgow, and then
Delhi, Glasgow, Gold Coast.
Yeah. So can you talk us through like your race day? Like what happened that day? What was that like for you on that? Fantastic.
Yeah. I don't know. It was just like a normal race day, like any other. Sorry, dog. Normal race day like any other. I don't know. My overwhelming memory is just being really calm. I don't remember I remember swimming the heat, and I'd swam, I think it might have been either on PB or just under PB. It was like 2:07 in the heats. And I'd swam a 2:07, which was a PB, unrested in the Edinburgh meet before, which was, I think, was champs that they'd done in the March before. So I knew I was like in a good place coming into it, but I remember not really thinking much about it. I wasn't overthinking it. I was just like going with the flow. And I remember speaking to Sharon before, like after the heats, and she asked me a question, something along the lines of, what are your hopes for the finals? Basically, like, do you think you can win it? And my reply was something like, it depends what the other girls can do, because there's no point, like, I could swim a best time and they could swim even faster, or I could swim a slow time and they could swim slower. Like, it didn't really matter what time I was going to do. It just depended what the other girls were going to do. And I was aware that there was a lot of Aussies in there that could swim really solid 200 fly times. So I wasn't prepared to like think too far ahead. I think I just said to her, I was just going to race it and see who hit the wall first, something like that.
Right.
And I think that gap between, thinking back now, that gap between that heats and finals, I don't know really how I handled it. Because, you know, when you're in competition mode, you're in a bubble, and you know, like, you're just in a zone, and you're just in your competition zone, and you just handle whatever comes at you. But like now, I'm like, how the hell did I handle that? But I just remember like lying in bed, chilling out, probably watching something on my laptop. I was sharing a room with Georgia, and we were just like chilling. She might have had a race as well, I can't remember exactly, but we were just chilling. And then time came to get the bus, and I just went to the final, and I just remember being really chilled and really like in control. And my final words to my coach before I went into the call room, to Stuart was like, did he say, we just said like, you know how to swim this, go and have fun. There was no like tactical messages, there was no like big long conversation. It was just like, you know what to do, go and enjoy it.
Yeah.
And I was like, yep, cool. Went in, and yeah, it was a really weird thing. I'm sure you probably heard it, but my goggles like fogged up, so I couldn't really see during the whole race. I could make out the bottom of the line, the tee, but I couldn't really see from like one end of the pool, I couldn't see the other end of the pool. So I couldn't make out either side, like where people were. I think because it was so warm, and I'd just done prime, and I had a heat jacket on, so my like all the condensation like went up in the goggles. I couldn't see anything. But yeah, so I couldn't really see. So I was just counting my strokes and doing like autopilot.
Right.
Counting my strokes so I knew where the wall was, so I could hit the wall on a stroke. And yeah, and just swam what I had been doing in training for years, and then had no idea where I was in the race, didn't know if I was in front or behind. And I remember, I think I came off the last wall, and I had some sort of feeling that I might be in front, but I thought, don't overthink it, just carry on, because my problem was in Glasgow, I came fourth in the 200 fly by like 0.18 of a second, and that had been like niggling at me for 4 years. And in Glasgow, when I came off the last turn, I thought I was in contention for a medal, and I got scared, and the adrenaline rush of getting scared went through me, and it made me like tighten up and move back a bit. So in Gold Coast, when I came off the last turn, I had an inkling I might be in front or near the front, and I had that same thought, and I thought, don't think about it, just carry on. So obviously carried on, hit the wall, but it took me ages to turn around, like take my goggles off, because obviously I couldn't see anything, so I was like, take my goggles off, turn around. And then when I looked at the board and saw the time, I was like, oh. And I think everyone knows the reaction, and I said a few words, because I was so shocked at the time and the place that I had no inkling that I was going that fast, or that I was that far in front. So it was like a double whammy that I'd gone that fast and won it.
That's amazing. I mean, do you think that having the goggles fog up was actually a way of putting the blinkers on, so it stopped you panicking, it stopped you thinking about that happened in Glasgow, and you just focus so much more on the process of it, because if you didn't get that right, then you may have missed the wall or whatever it would be. So do you think it actually helped to have it kind of narrowed your focus, I guess?
Yeah, I think so. I think because it made me go back to autopilot. So it made me go back to doing what I practice day in, day out in training. So in training, I count the number of kicks. I count my strokes on every 50 or fly, on every race pace 50 I do in training. I count my kicks. I count my strokes. So in having those fogged up goggles, suddenly it was like, well, I can't see anything else. So I've got to fall back on what I do in training. So suddenly it just came, I say like an autopilot swim. I don't think any autopilot swim's ever going to be like a PB just by accident, but it just made me do what I've trained my body to do. So that, with where my body was at that time in terms of taper, you know, everything else, that's what happened. That's what made that PB in that time happen. Because I couldn't see where anybody else was. So I had no external factors influencing panic or making me tighten up or anything like that. It was just a flowy swim that was just like waiting to happen. But yeah, it feels like such a strange swim now, but I think because it was so long ago and because of the situation we're in now, it feels like a different world. Yeah. So, and then everything after that's just a massive blur. Like everything happens so quickly. But
yeah.
That's fascinating, though. That's fascinating. It basically sounds like your whole day you were just an autopilot. Like it sounds like it's like to recollect, like, and think, remember what happened that day. Like, Georgia, she might not. Good roommate, by the way.
I know, you might have been. I don't know. You don't really pay attention to those things, do you? Because you're just like in your bubble. You're in your zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we work with like younger swimmers than yourself, and kind of what I think is really important is very often if your goggles fog up or leak in training, you'll stop and change it. And sometimes if you're in the middle of a rep for something, just carry on, because you're gonna at some point in your career you're gonna have a race where that might happen, and you need to kind of experience that before to not panic when it happens, I guess. So I'd say, kids out there that happens in training, just go with it, just let it happen. My greatest fear is that my goggles will leak. That's my greatest fear. I don't care about anything else happening in a race. My greatest fear is that my goggles will leak. I don't care if they fog up, that's fine. I have dry eyes, that's fine. I can still make out shapes. But if they leak, I know I will panic. So if I'm doing a dive in training and my goggles leak, I will try my best to carry on and do whatever rep that is. If it's a 50 or a 75, I will try my best to carry on, but I know I am panicking. But I try my best to do it because I know that if it's in a race and I have to swim with leaked goggles, the worst thing I can do is stop. So just got to try. Oh, for sure. Like, I'm totally with you on that. But I would panic as well if they started leaking. You
can't help but panic, can you? You're like, I can't see.
This feels unnatural, doesn't it? But I mean, that would be the worst thing for you. I know lots of different things can happen on race day. One of them being things like suits ripping, which I know you've experienced. You all experienced that at some point, zips popping on them when they used to have zips. I've noticed that you're really good with having great nails. Do you have long nails? Not they're a nice colour though. But like, do you have nails and struggle getting a suit on or anything? Because obviously the suits are really tight, and I could never have them when I used to wear them.
Yeah, no, I have a little trick, and that's to wear gloves putting my suits on.
There you go. Sneaky little trick.
I did go through a phase of ripping quite a lot of suits or just having tiny little nail marks in them, and I was like, I can't keep doing it. But yeah, you know the old gloves that came with the really ugly fast skin suits that nobody really liked? They were a massive fail. No, I use gloves similar to those with the little rubber like fingers. So they help me just
Oh, okay. Oh, fair enough. So
mystery solved.
Mystery solved. Yeah, I just when I raced for that reason, because I'd put them through too many suits. But so you, like White said, you was it 27 when you became Commonwealth champion? Gold Coast. Yeah. So you know, now you're looking to Tokyo, which is amazing, and there is for some people a bit of a perception around the age of swimmers and when is normal, if you like, for a breakout swim to happen and a really standout kind of year. And some would say that 27 is fairly late for that to happen, but I wouldn't agree personally. I feel like, you know, as the sport goes, it's getting older and older and older to the point where you can still hit your peak, and I think that's fantastic. And I don't like that there's any limitations put on people. So how have you kept yourself kind of going up till now? You're 29 now. How have you kept yourself physically and mentally in that great peak condition?
I think like it does come down to persistence, and also like having a little look at what other people in the world are doing. So if I look at other people around the world in my event, if I look at Katinka Hozu, if I look at Maria Belmonte, who swim my event 200 fly, they're my age, they're 30 or older. You know, I don't see why I should be classed as old for my age. If I'm still swimming my event at my age, I'm swimming it fine. I'm swimming it at the age it's meant to be swum at, because they're the best in the world and they're my age. So I'm not old. I'm bang on, really. So just because I might be old when it comes to like nationals or something in Britain doesn't mean that I'm old for my event the rest of the world. So, and because I had a breakthrough late, that just means I've been really persistent in making sure that I get there. You know, when I was younger, I wasn't particularly standout. I think I maybe won my first national medal at 18 or 19. You know, I wasn't that great when I was in my early teens. I wasn't like standout or anything like that, but coaches always told me I had talent, and I had great technique, and technique has always been something that I've worked a lot on. And then I've just worked hard and been really persistent. And I've had a lot of years like where I've had injuries or illnesses, and that's like scuppered my end of season. So it's always been a case of like I've worked really hard through the season and then the end of season hasn't quite come together, or I started off the season really well and I picked up an injury and then I haven't been able to finish off the qualifying part of the season for the bigger teams. So it's, and to me it's always been like, well, I would have got there if I hadn't have had that, or it's always been something that I felt has happened that hasn't quite been in my control. So I feel like it's always been, well, if I get that under my control, it might happen. So it's, and I've always just felt like I've never quite got where I feel like I can get to. So it's even with like getting to the Olympics, yeah, I might be one of the oldest people on a British team that's never been to an Olympics. And when that moment finally happens, I might be one of the oldest people to qualify for their first Olympics. I don't know if that would be a thing, but I don't really care, because it's just it's a personal achievement that I want to get. I feel I'm capable of doing it, and I don't think age is the number people should focus on. It's the time I'm capable of swimming. It's the time I swim. And if that time gets me on a podium or gets me on a team, that's what's important. It's not necessarily, oh, she's a bit old, or because at the end of the day, I'm not. And I'm not old. As I said before, I'm like bang on the age for my event. So
yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, it's just something that, you know, I perceived that was there when I swam.
Yeah.
And I think
it is changing. Like you said, swimming is getting older, and I think that's probably the help of things like sports science and being able to keep people in the sport longer. And yeah, it's, you know, hopefully something that we can keep people in the sport longer if they've got access to things like sports science, or, you know, things like you guys are doing with the camps, and making sure people are able to stay in the sport if they've got access to enough things like sports science, nutrition, you know, the knowledge base, and they keep their love and passion for it. Because ultimately, if people fall out of love with it, they stop doing it, don't they?
Yeah.
They find it too hard to keep doing.
Oh, you got to love what you do, for sure. Yeah.
You said so. It's more about like you basically hadn't performed what you knew inside you were capable of doing for a long time. What was it, like she said, once you get under control, you're going to be able to like get these good performances out. So how did you get that under control? How did you stop your body breaking down at the end of a cycle? Was it a case that you were overtraining slightly before, or what difference?
I think because I've worked with my coach now for 10 going on 11 years, so it's being able to work with my coach for long enough to figure out the right sort of training for me. So in terms of like, I don't think it's as simple as overtraining, but it's more smart training. So yeah, as my body gets older, I can't train the way a 16-year-old would train. I have to train more smart. So maybe it's doing more drills and skills. Like I love doing drills. I love doing technique stuff and getting my technique spot on, so that when I do the big sessions and the big aerobic and the big threshold sessions or the big race pace sessions, if my technique is spot on, I'm less likely to have an injury or an overuse injury or something like that. But if my technique is a bit shoddy and I do a big session, I'm going to get some kind of injury or something go wrong.
Yeah.
So for me, I feel like the older you get, the more important technique becomes. So taking a session out on a Friday morning just to go over skills and drills is more beneficial than hammering in another threshold session. Like the older you get, I feel.
Yeah.
Because I've laid down all of those foundations when I was a lot younger, doing those massive sessions. That's not to say that I don't do those big sessions still now, but they still go hand in hand with those technique ones as well. And it's just like smart training. So if I'm having an off week, it might be saying, okay, well, look, let's not push you too far this week. We'll take a step back. It's using sports science as well. Like I do daily monitoring and making sure my body is coping with the amount of training, so we don't go into those overtraining zones or anything like that, to make sure I get the most out of me.
What do you monitor each day then? What do you do with sports science?
So we do HRV monitoring, so heart rate variance.
Okay.
I don't know loads and loads about it, but basically, I think, if I'm right, it's measures the variance between your heart rate overnight. We do it first thing in the morning. So our sports scientists will tell us if there's a difference between the beats of our heart rate. And if there's a change, it might mean that we're more susceptible to becoming ill,
Right.
or we haven't recovered properly from our training. So it will give us a signal before that happens. So she can tell our coaches, and then we can back off training before we're likely to get ill or susceptible to like overtraining or anything like that. So it's like a precursor before anything might happen. So it's quite useful in that respect.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, nutrition, I guess that's something that, you know, is getting more and more of a say in the training plan of an athlete now, more than when we were there. I feel like athletes themselves are probably more aware as well. There's just, I mean, nutrition changes all the time. That's the hard thing about it. Like, so it must be so hard to be a nutritionist, because like the science is constantly changing. But I mean, is it something that you're really, really aware of as a swimmer? I mean, you know, a typical thing we always get asked is, what's a pre and post race meal that you feel really well for your event? I mean, throughout the week, through training, through competition, are you aware of nutrition?
Yeah, I guess so. But I think because we have this discussion a few times, but I think because we're athletes and we've kind of grown up with it through our sport to an extent. I've always had access to Sport Wales nutritionist. I think I take for granted my knowledge of nutrition, so I kind of end up assuming that people know about nutrition and know what a good meal looks like. But I guess perhaps that's not the case in all areas. So we try to keep it fairly simple, or this is what I've been taught from my nutritionist, that each meal should look like a meal wheel, which is split into thirds. So it's got like literally 3 sections. So one is carbohydrates, one is your protein, and the other is your support group, so your vegetables. And each meal should be made up of those 3 components in equal portions. But it should, sorry, it's the dog. Talking about food, see.
There you go.
But yeah, so those three components. And then the only ways it should change is coming up to a hard session. If you know you're going to have quite a demanding session coming up, you might increase the carbohydrates. You don't increase the overall portion size, you just have more carbohydrates and less support and less protein. And then after that demanding session, you increase the protein and have slightly less carbohydrates and less support. So you don't, like I said, you don't increase the overall portion size, you just switch up how much of each thirds there are.
Okay.
But that's the general, like, really simplistic view that we've been taught through the nutritionist of like what your each meal should look like, and that should be breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then in terms of portion sizes, it's just like eat as much as your body tells you to eat. Don't overeat, don't undereat. And then snacks, have like maybe 2 snacks in between those meals. But yeah, I think that's as simple as our nutritionist told us to do. And I always tend to follow that meal wheel. Like even now I'm following a meal wheel. My plate always looks like those 3 sections. And just depends on like how demanding my training is, whether I know it's going to be like a high threshold set, then I'll have slightly more carbs to fuel for it. Or if it's going to be, if I've just done gym, I might have slightly more protein just to recover straight after from it. In terms of race day, I guess it's kind of like the training stuff. So it's going to be a really high demanding thing where you're going to need to fuel up for it. So it's like a high carb type meal, but I think we're told that like the support in terms of fruit and veg is less of a necessity. So it's higher carbs. And then protein wise, before a competition, I think we're told to stay away from red meat because it kind of sits heavy in the belly and it's slower to digest. That's before. And then afterwards, recovery wise, just higher protein, more of a balanced type meal. But yeah, it's just generally on the rules of fuel before and recover after, and I just tend to go by that.
So what are your favourite pre-race meals and post-race meals then, or snacks?
I guess I don't really have like a go-to, because I think a lot of it depends on where I am and what I can get, but I guess any swimmer's pre-race meal is going to be pasta of some sort. It's just a stereotypical thing. It's easy to eat. Post-race, I think if it's after the end of your main season competition, you tend to just go for whatever you can get and just treat yourself. But I don't know, really. I can't think off the top of my head. It tends to just be, if I'm in my own environment, I want to say like a bolognese for a pre-race, like a spaghetti bolognese, something that's easy and quick to make. If I'm in my own environment, I'd probably go for that. I can't really think.
I mean, everyone, we always try and say like, don't vary too much from what you would normally eat, really, because otherwise you'll not cope with it, and with nerves of that. Being on a hot poolside, all of that kind of stuff, you want to make sure that your body's got one less thing to have to stress about, really.
Exactly, like foods, and your body will ultimately tell you what you want to eat. So I tend to listen to my body a bit more around race time. So if my body's telling me it wants, I don't know, a chicken sandwich or like a chicken pasta, or it really fancies like a steak afterwards, then fine, feed it that, let it have that. Because I feel like my body will tell me what it wants to eat and what it doesn't want to eat. If it doesn't feel like eating this, it's probably likely that it will make me feel a bit sick.
Yeah.
But I also feel like I know some people that really won't eat on race day. They just don't like eating. And these are guys that have been to Commonwealths and things like that. And at commies, they didn't eat. They didn't want to eat. But I made it a point to structure in my day. Right, I'm going to the food hall now. I'm going to eat this now. Wasn't necessarily that I was hungry, but I knew I needed it to fuel. So I would say like competitions is definitely important to make sure you're eating, even if you don't want to.
Like you say, because you might not have that want to do it, you need to plan it in. Essentially, I was similar to you in that if I was, like, I used to get really nervous before races. I definitely wouldn't have been as calm as you going into that commies final. but that would make me feel like my stomach wasn't ready for food. So I had to see food as fuel to get me through.
Yeah, that's it.
Needed to get through and get the best out of it. So yeah, it's everyone's got to look at it in a different way to get the best out of nutrition, I think.
Like even if it's quite plain.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think commies, like the finals were quite late in the evenings. I think some of them were like 9:30 in the evening. So you couldn't really have, I think we had to leave at like maybe 4:30 or 5 from the village to get to the pool. So I couldn't have a dinner before leaving. So I would have had lunch at like 12 or 1. So in terms of then planning my food around that, it was I had to go to the dining hall again, and I was having what I would call like a second breakfast. So I was having like porridge and stuff at like 3 or 4 o'clock, just to fuel. It wasn't necessarily like a meal, it was fueling again. And then once I'd done my final and I was coming back at like 11 o'clock, I would then go in the dining hall again and have whatever I fancied, because it wouldn't necessarily be a dinner because it was really late, but it was just in terms of, okay, let's just get some recovery in, whatever I fancy. It might be another bowl of cereal, it might be like whatever they have out in terms of meat or a salad or something, just to get some food in.
Yeah.
So like sometimes around competitions, depending on the timings, like they go a bit weird in terms of, well, this isn't a proper meal, but it's just some food in me to fuel or recover from whatever I've just done.
Yeah, I mean, village situations, so for commies, for Olympic Games, like that, the dining hall it's dangerous in one way because there's every food you can think of. So sometimes temptation might get the better of you. You've got to be very controlled. But in other ways, I found it nicer that it was just there whenever you wanted it, and that it was on offer, because you did have to switch your meals around sometimes. Like I know I've been in this situation. Like I didn't make Beijing, but the finals and the heats were the other way around. So you'd be like a dinner before you go and do your heats and a breakfast before finals sort of thing. So I feel like, the dining hall situation was actually quite nice when you strange times for racing and stuff. You can just get it.
I feel like probably coming through what you're saying there, like having a longer career, that's the experience coming through, that like you just listen to my body, I give it what it needs, where the longer you've been going, the more you know how to do that. And I really like the way you describe the food plate into the thirds. It's a really simplistic, but really, really effective way of doing it, I think. It's for like your athletes, and that's a really good thing they can listen to and take away. So I really like that one. But
makes it visual then as well.
Sorry, Alice, what was that?
I just said it makes it visual.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just a visual thing, dead easy to follow. And it makes sense if you've got a hard session coming up, increase your carbs. You've done your hard session, you need some recovery, get that protein in. Yeah, really, really easy. And same for race day as well. I'm surprised you can remember what we had on race day.
You seem to be in a different world.
Just zoned out.
Well, I probably couldn't tell you exactly what it was, but I know I was following that plan. But
that's brilliant. So obviously you coming on, like I said, that experience, all these things play in so that you can get these better performances out of yourself at a later age. You're training smart, say, listening to your body, and the sports science picking in. Like there was none of that in my day where they were monitoring your heart rate so closely and not having an impact on the session. I think if I'd have told Ian my heart rate was a bit higher this morning, I'm going to back off a little bit and hit the roof. It was just like, this is what we're doing. Everyone's got to do it. So things adapt and change, which is great, and helping you have a longer career. And like Rio 2016, I know that was kind of like probably a little bit of a sore subject because you had good results. You were like British champion, still didn't get put on the team. But seeing as your results like 2018, you're breaking out. Not having Tokyo Olympics this year and having an extra year, is that like a positive for you? Is that like that's even more time to like let your body develop and get to know yourself as an athlete?
Yeah. It's a weird one because with 2016, I'd had an upper arm injury in the January of 2016. So I'd actually been unable to swim properly, and I was doing a lot of kick sessions. So going into that trials, I wasn't actually mentally thinking, this is my chance to qualify. It was more like, let's just see how we go. The 200 fly I think I did all right. I think I came second. I think Amy won it. I think I came second, but we were both off the times. Neither of us got the time, so that was okay. It was all right. And then the 100 flyer won, and that was almost like a bit of a surprise. Like, oh, okay, I might have done something here. I might have put myself in contention for at least a wild card, perhaps, if they want to take a relay spot.
Yeah.
So then I remember walking down poolside and like coaches coming up to me being, oh, well done, you've got on the team there, well done. And there was all this, like, everybody getting my hopes up for things. I remember going to my coach and being like, oh, do you think so? And he was like, I don't know. And it was just one of those waiting games, and like the call never came, and it was just like, okay then. And I remember like being it was a bit silly, because it was like, well, I didn't go in thinking I was going to qualify.
Yeah.
But now all of a sudden I'm really disappointed I haven't. So it was sort of like, and then there was this realization in my head at that point that it was like this thought thinking, oh, well, I'm never going to be an Olympian. And that was like a really hard like thought and like realization to take, because I didn't think at that point that I was going to still be swimming by like now.
Yeah.
So I didn't think I was going to be still swimming 4 years later. I didn't think I was going to have the Commonwealths I did in 2018. So at that point I was quite like down. I was quite hard on myself, and it took me like a week or two to kind of get back into like the frame of mind, like actually I still want to keep going, and I still got things I want to achieve. I can still be a great swimmer without being an Olympian, because for me that's like the pinnacle of swimming. That's like the best you can be. That's the top thing. And at that point I hadn't been to a Worlds either, so, or a Europeans. Like the commies was like the top I'd been. I hadn't been on any British teams. It was just commies. So I was like, okay, so where do I go next? And my coach was really good with me. He built me up and was like, well, you know, there are plenty of world champions that have never been to Olympics. There's all of this stuff. And I was like, okay. But yeah, we built up from there. And I think actually doing all of that all the kick sessions with the arm injury brought my kick on so much, and that's kind of now what I'm known for in the 200 flyers, having the underwater kick. So silver lining and all, having the injury, working on something else sort of shot me through then and helped me have that breakout in 2018. So yeah, what was the other part of the question?
Well, just jumping like, I just feel like at that age you'd have been, I don't want to keep talking about age, but just the fact that like, it does get brought up a lot. And I think at 25 you would have been at the 2016 championships. So like being to 2 Commonwealths, to have done it for so long, no one would probably have looked at you in a negative light at all if you'd have been like, I've probably got as far as I can. And if you're saying I don't think I can become an Olympian now, nobody would stop you from walking away. So to send yourself around in 1 or 2 weeks, that sounds really short amount of time to me. After like I didn't qualify, I was sulking for a good 6 months. I don't know how you turned it around so fast. Was it like, but I was injured, so that's not my best performance yet? Was that almost a
I think that was hard.
Yeah.
I think because I had gone into it thinking I wasn't going to qualify. Yeah. So it was like a very quick thing of like, I'm not going to qualify. Oh, I might qualify. And then it was like, oh, I haven't qualified. But it was quite quick just to come back up like, oh, I'm okay.
Right.
But it was just that very quick, like, oh, I might get there. And then it was like I said, it was that, shoom, I'm not going to get there.
Well, the qualification.
And then it was the realization that.
In like, I don't know, waiting for a call. I find that's quite mean. Like compared to like around see the results, yes or no. Like that period of waiting, that must be horrible.
And I would have rathered if they just turned around and been like, we're not considering you, so don't get your hopes up.
I'm sure, yeah.
If they just had done that, it would have been all right. But that's not how they do it. So they're not going to turn around like majority of people and been like, we're not considering you. So it is sport. It is harsh, and they've got to. There's not going to be a way they pick a team that's fair. It's just the way it is, unfortunately. So,
I mean, you do, or you did a psychology degree at Swansea, is that right?
Yeah.
So during those points, like with whether it's injury leading into competition, whether it's not quite riding that roller coaster of emotions during competition, do you feel like that's helped you a little bit in your swimming?
I think so. Like, I graduated 5 years ago now, so quite a long time ago. But it did take me a long time to do my degree. So I did 2 deferred years, 2 full-time years, 2 part-time years. So it was quite a long stint. But I think what it probably did teach me was like critical thinking. So being able to think logically and critically about things. So being able to break things down and think about how things are affecting different parts of like your emotions or processes, and being able to think subjectively and objectively about different things. So yeah, I think a lot, and anyone will tell you I like to overthink, which is sometimes a good thing and sometimes a bad thing. And I always think like way ahead, like what's going to happen if this happens? How will I deal with that? How will I prepare myself if that happens? So that if that does happen, I've kind of already been there in my head, so I know how to react. Yeah. Which can be a bad thing, but can be a good thing, because then if that does happen, I'm already prepared for it. So I think my degree has probably helped me in that respect, because it's quite, I don't know, psychology does involve a lot of like thinking about things and rationalizing things, and they use the term critical thinking quite a lot in terms of just being able to problem solve, I guess.
Yeah. Come outside I think a little bit.
Yeah, like come out of yourself and like look at a problem from a different perspective and then solve it. So yeah, I think it might have helped me a little bit in that respect.
Yeah. Oh, right. Yeah. So like the next part of that question I said before, sorry, was so obviously like, yeah, once you've gone through that, you then start having even better performances. You've won Commonwealth, you've been to like GBT now for World Championships twice. So now cancelled, but is that so much of a negative? Postpone. So cancel for this year. You know what I mean? So you've got even more time. Is that better for you? Like, because you are still your PBs are getting better and better and better. It's going a bit linear for you over these last few years.
Yeah.
Is it almost
I'm trying to look at it as like a blessing. That you can't look at it as like, I think initially I took it quite hard and almost personal. I was like, why is this happening to me? And then I remember it's happening to everybody in the world. It's not just me, it's everyone. But yeah, so I did take it pretty hard, and I did have like a little teary moment when trials got cancelled. So I was like, I'm not going to get my moment to qualify. That's all I want, is like my moment to say I deserve this and I've worked hard for this. But then it was almost like, it was sadness and a sense of relief when Tokyo was announced as postponed, because it was like, well, it was never going to be normal if it was this year anyway. It wasn't going to be the big event that everybody wants, with everything going on, and it wouldn't have been safe. So it's relief that it was postponed. But then at the same time, it was like, so I'm going to have to do it all again. I'm going to have to go through another year of preparation. But then on the other side, it's like, okay, well, I get another year, I get another chance to kind of go through all of the preparation again. I get to tweak anything that we didn't think was quite right. I get to kind of change things or do things over a little bit differently. We've got another chance to kind of get even better, be another year older, another year wiser, another year smarter. So yeah, it's like you can only look on it as a positive. And to look on it in a negative way would be silly, and you'd be putting yourself at a disadvantage to look at it that way. So, yeah.
I mean, where obviously sights are on Tokyo, that is going to be your focus for this coming year. Yeah. After Tokyo, whether it's in the pool, out the pool, like what do you see yourself doing?
Yeah, it's a weird one, because before I've kind of only looked as far as Tokyo. And then it was going to be a case of like reevaluating everything, seeing how it went, and deciding what I wanted to do, if I wanted to carry on going or or otherwise. But now, because it's a year later, it kind of brings me another year closer to another Commonwealths, which is a really scary thought, but also exciting because it's a home Commonwealths.
Yeah.
And it would be my 4th one, which I know a lot of people don't get to 4 commies. But it's hard to say, yes, I'll definitely do that, or no, I definitely won't. I think it would still be a case of reevaluating everything and seeing where things are. But there's lots of other competitions as well in the meantime that are in the way, that have been postponed and moved. And, there's a Europeans, there's another Worlds, which would be awesome to do. So yeah, it's funny how like a little postponement of one event can suddenly put like 4 others on your horizon that you hadn't even thought of. So where I had thought, oh, maybe I've only got 1 or 2 more years left in me, I'm thinking maybe there's a few more, just because there's like other goals. I'm thinking, oh, that would be kind of cool to do. So, but I mean, it does depend on a lot of other things. It depends if my body can still keep going, if I can still keep improving, if I still have the hunger and desire to do it, which I'm fairly sure I still do at this stage. But we'll just have to keep on doing bit by bit, keep on reevaluating, and if all is good, we still keep going. I don't see why not, like at the moment anyway.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, no, totally agree with that. I mean, we wish you a really long and successful career. Outside of the pool, whenever that comes, what do you know what you want to do? Because I know, like, we came out of swimming kind of feeling a bit sort of lost in a way. We didn't really know what direction we wanted to take. For me, I was probably a little bit more ready to stop than you were, but I still didn't know. Do you have an idea of what direction you might want to go whenever it is that you do come away from the pool?
So that's probably my problem as well, is that I don't really have like a set, clear, this is definitely where I want to go when I finish swimming. So part of me is like, well, I don't really know what I want to do yet, so I'll just keep swimming. I mean, I have a few like ideas, but I probably would want to stay in swimming just because I feel like it's given me so much. I'd probably want to give back a little bit somewhere, but I mean, I don't know where or how. Maybe use the psychology background a little bit in some way. I don't know. But yeah, it would be hard to just walk away completely from the sport when I've been in it all my life. I think it would be quite hard.
Keep splashing around in pools as long as you can. That's the best way.
Yeah. It is the life. Like, we are lucky.
Life, yeah, you miss it when you start believing. Plus, I think anything like this, being an athlete like you have, to the levels you have, and overcome these ups and downs, and showing the persistence and resilience and all that stuff, you're set up to do well at whatever you want to put yourself to. You know what I mean? Like, I really believe that like an athlete that can get to that level can do well wherever they want to go afterwards. So yeah, it's brilliant. Is there anywhere where people can follow you? Where do they find you? On Instagram, Facebook?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram, Twitter. I have a page on Facebook. My Instagram's probably most active.
Right. Good.
Yeah.
And what's your handle? What's your
just Alice_Thomas, ALYS_Thomas.
Awesome. People, go follow Alice's journey to Tokyo 2021, Birmingham 2.
And anywhere else I go.
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Well, thank you so much, Alice. It's really nice to speak to you today, and best of luck with everything. Really hope that you manage to get back in the pool soon as well.
Yeah, me too. Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're very welcome. Yeah, thanks for coming on, Alice. We appreciate it.
Yeah. See you, Alice.
Thank you.